A video posted last night shows that Aaron Judge has arrived in San Francisco, and then multiple reporters saying that he's going to meet with the Giants today. And so we're going to get into all of it next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, and I'm a lifelong fan. Thanks for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. And coming up on today's show, yes, the story of the day, Aaron Judge in San Francisco and reportedly meeting with the Giants today. Maybe as you're listening to this right now, he is in a room with whoever it may be, whether it's Farhan Zaidi, Larry Baer, Rob Dean, Buster Posey, Barry Bonds, who knows? And man, what I wouldn't give to be listening in on those conversations. But yeah, you've probably seen the video by now. Honestly, I have questions. We'll get to those questions, like who shot this video and why was he kind of agreeing to be filmed here? But the video is him arriving at a hotel last night, and the questioner asks, Aaron Judge in San Francisco, what are you doing in the city? And he goes, just visiting some friends and family. That's about it. And then he winks a little bit. And then the person who's filming says, got anything fun planned? And he says, oh, we got something. And then he says, have a good one, and walks away. So juicy, right? And honestly, it's been very slow so far going in the offseason. Like, no major free agents have signed, very few kind of major rumors coming out. But as soon as this video was released, and it has like a MLB Network watermark, whatever it's called, in the corner. So they like purchased the rights to this video. I will go down this road a little bit later. I'm a little suspicious of the context here, like who shot it, how did MLB Network get their hands on this video, and was it kind of staged, maybe by his agency, to kind of drive up attention that he's in San Francisco? That's kind of my cynical conspiracy theory about the whole thing. But the fact is, he's meeting with the Giants. There's no big surprise there, and this is what I want to say, is that it's not that big of a surprise at all. If you really thought like they weren't even interested in Judge, then you've been living under a rock. And if you thought that they wouldn't actually meet with him, or he wouldn't meet with them because they weren't serious enough, you've been living under a rock. Like, we've all known that their interest is legitimate, and they're going to do what they can to try to pursue Aaron Judge, who grew up a huge Giants fan, to sign here. Is he the perfect free agent? No, because he's a little bit older. In fact, 5 years older pretty much than like Bryce Harper and Manny Machado were when they signed their huge deals. And that was the reason I mentioned Harper, is because he was the last major free agent that we know of that the Giants really did try to sign. And that was the first offseason under Farhan Zaidi. And I've said this 1,000 times, but you know, there's all this talk about how Zaidi is like cheap and doesn't want to spend. But I think given the right circumstances, the right player at the right age with the right talent, that they're more than willing to make a hard push. And that's the thing, is that they offered Bryce Harper 12 years, $310 million, but he was 26. And Aaron Judge is going to be 31 in year one of whatever his new deal is. And just the other thing I want to mention about Harper is that we have it on, record pretty much. Not, the Giants haven't said this, I don't think, but reputable reporters have reported that the Giants met face-to-face many times with Bryce Harper during that 2018-2019 offseason. And so the fact that Aaron Judge is meeting in person with the Giants shouldn't really come as a huge surprise. It's exciting, and it's cool to see video proof of it, see him in a shot in San Francisco with a big smile on his face when you know what he's doing and he's going to meet with the Giants. But at the same time, this kind of thing happens all the time. It just doesn't often necessarily even get reported on because they try to keep it hush hush. And also, there's certainly not very often like visual proof. Part of what happened with Harper, I think when we were learning more about the Giants' interest, there were reports about Larry Baer like checking into a hotel in Vegas where Harper lives. And so this is just kind of the same thing. It's Aaron Judge checking into a hotel in San Francisco where, family and friends are close by. I'm sure they probably got him like a penthouse suite or something, and he probably is going to see family and friends, but also going to meet face to face with the San Francisco Giants. And so, yes, the Giants have legitimate interest in Aaron Judge. I don't know exactly when Aaron Judge is going to make a decision. I don't know what Aaron Judge's motivation is. Like, this is one of those things. This is something I've kind of been meaning to say. Like, what is my opinion about where he ultimately ends up? And I've implied this, I've even mentioned it a few times, but I do believe he ends up back with the New York Yankees. I'm sorry to say it, just a little cold water on the idea that just seeing him in San Francisco means he's going to sign here. I think that the Giants are the second most likely team outside of the Yankees, but we just don't know what his motivation is. Yes, he's from the area. He grew up a huge Giants fan. His family's nearby. His wife's family is nearby in Linden, an hour and a half away. But is his motivation to be close to family? Or is his motivation, like a lot of players who are great Hall of Fame type players, is a big part of their motivation to play for one team for their whole career? Like Buster Posey has said time and time again that his goal was to play for the Giants for his whole career. Like sometimes that, and Judge has said this when he got drafted by the Yankees, all that Giant stuff went out the window. He said those exact words in a recent interview. I think it was with John Shea in the San Francisco Chronicle. But look, he might not feel that way. We don't really know. He didn't say to John Shea, I want to play for one team my whole career. But he said, yes, he was a Giants fan and all that. But as soon as he got drafted by the Yankees, everything changes, of course. And that's your team. And so when all is said and done, the Yankees have more than enough financial firepower to be able to match or top anything that the Giants offer. They could just simply say, like, we will, whatever they offer you, we will pay more. They could do that. And the Giants could say the same thing, and it could get crazy. But when all is said and done, there are other options out there for the Giants. And I think Judge is a great target. I wouldn't have this sign up over my left shoulder if I didn't. The end of the contract could look not so pretty, given that he's already 31, but in the short term and the just kind of the state of the franchise with the frustration of the fans, I'm not saying always make decisions based on fan frustrations, but for the next 3-4 years, this guy might be the best player in baseball. Certainly in the next 2-3 years, I would imagine he has a real shot to be that. Not necessarily going to be that. He was this year, but not necessarily moving forward. But he's obviously a tremendous talent. But you just worry about age-related decline for a player who's 31 when you're talking about a deal that many are predicting is going to end up at about 9 years. But there are better maybe that was a Freudian slip there. There are other options out there who might be a better fit. And coming up in just a minute, we are going to talk about who those guys are and why this ESPN article that came out today with a bunch of their experts predicting where the top free agents are going to land is really interesting, and you're not going to want to miss all the attention that the Giants get in this article. We'll get into it in just a second, but before we do, BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional sport out there, whether it's amateur or professional, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. We really have it all at BetOnline. Also the MLB offseason, and I'm kind of pivoting. We've talked so much about Aaron Judge. I don't know if they still have the over-under for the contract at $375 million. I still think it's under, and that was an easy call right away, so I hope some of you took that bet. And also they continue to have the Giants as the most likely team if he leaves the Yankees. But how about some of these other free agents who we're going to talk about in just a minute, like Carlos Correa, some of the pitchers? Where do the Giants fall on those players? And maybe after you hear who we talk about next, you'll want to check out what BetOnline is implying with the odds that they're giving on these players. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline is where the game starts. All right, as promised, we are going to discuss this article by ESPN in which they have 7 of their experts. Not everyone's opinion at ESPN I always trust, but when you get 7, paid ESPN reporters giving you some information, it's worth taking a look at. And some of these writers I really do believe and respect their opinions. So we're going to get into who do they have linked to the Giants in just a minute. Thanks for making Locked On Giants your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with the local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today is available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. So yes, this ESPN article with predictions on all of the top players, really, from Bradford Doolittle, Alden Gonzalez, June Lee, Kylie McDaniel, Buster Olney, Jesse Rogers, and Dave Schoenfield predicting where they're going to land and what the contracts are. And so I just thought this was really interesting. How about Aaron Judge to start, just to wrap up that conversation? I think they pretty much have it right, with 5 of the experts predicting the Yankees and 2 predicting the Giants. That's kind of just about in line with what I would think. The Yankees have so much to lose by losing Aaron Judge and so much to gain. I continue to think it's more likely than not that he ends up back with the Yankees. And you know that. By the way, the 2 predictions for the Giants, Dave Schoenfield has the Giants getting Judge at 9 years, $332 million. And Mr. Gonzalez has the Giants at 8 years, $352 million, which is a crazy high average annual value, shorter term, but man, that's a lucrative average annual value. And I start to think that at that point, if you're the Giants, yes, you consider that, and maybe they do something like that, but pivoting to some of these other guys might make a lot of sense if the Yankees are just willing to get stupid and just offer him whatever it takes. I could see the Giants pivoting. So the next player I want to talk about here, or at least the next class of players, is the free agent shortstop class, where we have 4 really good shortstops. I do believe Dansby Swanson is not really my favorite because there are questions about the bat. And 3 of the other guys, there aren't questions about the bat. And specifically, I've come fully around. I know that in the, prior to even the season ending, I was kind of not out on Carlos Correa, but a little down on Carlos Correa, but I've come all the way around, and he is the number 1 shortstop for me that makes sense for the Giants and may even make, from just a objective standpoint, not an emotional fan base standpoint, but may make even more sense even than Aaron Judge, simply because of the age. Because he's 28 he's going to be 28 all of 2023, and Aaron Judge is going to be 31 pretty much all of 2023. And so the predictions for Correa range from 8 to 10 years, and I think that's something that's a little easier to swallow than 9, maybe even 10 years for Aaron Judge. You're really paying a guy to be about 40 years old at the end of a deal. It's probably not going to end up pretty at all. But in the short term, I think it's worth it. I'm not saying don't do it for that reason. But anyway, let's just get into Carlos Correa a little bit. So Kylie McDaniel has Carlos Correa going to the Giants in his prediction at 8 years, $270 million. I don't know all of these people's first name. I know I read it earlier, but I don't have it in memory. So I'm just going to give the last name for who's making these predictions. Doolittle has the Giants getting Trey Turner at 8 years, $260 million. Schoenfield has the Giants getting Correa at 9 years, $285 million. Jesse Rogers, has the Giants getting Bogarts at 6 years, $180 million. June Lee has the Giants getting Correa at 9 years, $310 million. Buster Olney doesn't have the Giants landing a shortstop. I don't think he had them with Judge either. I don't know that I see that. I really do think, look, free agency is highly competitive. I feel like that gets slept on a little bit. It is not like an auction where you're sitting in the stands, the player's up on the podium, and you're just bidding, and you know what everyone else's bid is, and you just have to bid a little bit more, and you get them. It's not like that at all. You don't know what other teams are offering. The agents are trying to play games with you to an extent. They're trying to get the most out of you, so they're not going to just tell you look, I've never been involved in a free agency pursuit, but this is my understanding of it, is it's not as straightforward as you might think, and you may end up bidding against yourselves at a certain point, and you don't know what other teams are offering, and it's highly competitive for the top guys. And so it's possible you just miss out even though you put your best foot forward. And perhaps it requires that you, quote, overpay. And that's the thing. And I think that the Giants are in a position to do that if necessary. But at a certain point, it just becomes too much for everybody. There's a certain point where it's just too much. And so we'll see. Anyway, Gonzalez has the Giants not landing any of the shortstops either. But that's 5 out of the 7 experts here predicting the Giants to come away with one of the shortstops. And I'll bet you if you told them the Giants won't get Judge, you might even see 7 out of 7 saying one of the shortstops to the Giants. And I think it was 3 out of the 7 here had them getting Carlos Correa. And I see it. I really do see it. I think that the stars kind of align in a lot of ways. Correa can hit. Correa is a big personality and kind of would bring an edge to the Giants that they haven't really had. People call them boring and whatnot. He's not a boring player at all. Like I said, he can really hit. He's been good in the postseason. He likes to win. He's just kind of motivated by competition, which not everybody necessarily is. And there's the whole Dodgers connection in that they hate him because of they believe he's kind of the face of the team that stole a World Series from them. And so that would spice up the rivalry quite a bit. And also, I think the one thing that kind of suppresses his value, or people see his value as being a little suppressed, is that he didn't have a great defensive season in 2022. But prior to 2022, he was literally one of the best defensive shortstops in the game. He's got a really good throwing arm. The one thing that somewhat not alarms me, but gives me a little bit of not even hesitation, but the one thing I point to when I say what's going on there is that he's slowed down. His sprint speed has been in pretty steady and significant decline, and he's only 28 years old. He just turned 28, so all of this year he actually spent at age 27 with Minnesota. But at age 28, I think that you bet on the athleticism. You bet that he can be better defensively. He could play second. He could play third. He could certainly play short as well. And he can hit. And everything else I just mentioned. And also, he's made it pretty clear. I'll have to dig up the quote somewhere. But basically that money talks for him. And that if you offer him the most money, he's probably going to take that deal. And it's not that he only cares about money, but he's just one of these guys. When it comes to where do I want to play, he's willing to play wherever, as long as you pay him the most. Maybe if you're the Pirates or something, he doesn't want to play for a team that is like no shot of winning, at least in the short term. Maybe the A's are another example of a team that's just years away right now, and he wouldn't want to be there. But I think the Giants could get this guy if they offer him the best package, and he's just the right combination of age and talent and offensive talent, defensive talent, athleticism, personality. Twins loved him. The Twins loved him. Like the character. I had questions about the character because of the cheating scandal and all that, but the guy's like a leader, man. And I could definitely see him ending up on the Giants. And I think that these predictions are spot on. And so, like I said, maybe you want to check out Bet Online and see what odds they're giving on Carlos Correa to the Giants, because outside of Aaron Judge, and maybe even more so than Aaron Judge, I could see the Giants actually ending up with this guy. So, coming up in just a minute, some young players on the Giants, some minor leaguers of significant note here. Casey Schmidt and Patrick Bailey both took home significant awards that could play a role in their future with the Giants. We'll get into what those awards were in just a second, but before we do, all right, as promised, a couple of awards for a couple of Giants minor leaguers. The Rawlings Gold Glove Awards, 2 minor league players were announced today, and the Giants had 2 winners out of the 9 positions on the field, including pitcher here. Patrick Bailey won the Gold Glove Award for minor leaguers at the catcher position, and Casey Schmidt won the Gold Glove Award at third base for among all minor leaguers. This isn't just like level by level, right? They award it no matter what level you are. And to have 2 of the 9 winners is pretty substantial. It's also like ironic in a way or something that, the Giants, who had such a problem defensively in 2022, have a couple of their minor leaguers winning this award. And it's obviously a good thing. Casey Schmidt is much closer to the majors than Patrick Bailey. Bailey spent the whole year in high A. I don't know exactly what his injuries were this year. He's been injured the last couple of years, I believe, and hasn't played all that much. But we'll talk about Patrick Bailey's numbers in just a minute and how they're actually better than I think a lot of people give him credit for. But Casey Schmidt made it all the way to AAA, and he's a third baseman, as I said. He also played some short in the minors as well. And he's 23 years old, drafted as their second round pick, 49th overall in 2020. And the dude can field. Like, a lot of people have kind of said that he's maybe the best defensive player in the minors, or at least close to it. But it's not like he's a glove-only player. He really hit this year in the minor leagues as well. If we look at, he started the year in in high A, Eugene. In 93 games, he hit 17 home runs, had a 363 on base, 201 isolated power, 11% walk rate, only 22.5% strikeout rate. Really good numbers. Got him promoted. In AA, he only was there for 29 games, but he had a 144 weighted runs created plus, a 342 batting average, 378 on base, 517 slugging. Made it to AAA, played in 4 games in AAA, but as we've said a few times, that means he's very likely to start 2023 in AAA, and then at that point, he's really just a hot month away from getting the call to the major leagues. And so, Evan Longoria's club option was declined. Giants have David Villar, J.D. Davis, Wilmer Flores, Tommy La Stella is technically still on the roster, Thairo Estrada. They've got a few, more than a few, like a handful of guys who can play third. But I don't feel great about any of those guys kind of being a everyday type player at third base. And defensively, I don't feel great about any of those guys at third base. Casey Schmidt, on the other hand, if he can hit even just a little bit at the major league level, he could be a really good player, and he's really close. And so him winning this award is just another not example. It just goes to show that the Giants have a quality position player here in the upper minors. And they need this. They need this in a bad way. They need some of their young players to come up to the majors and start being producers. And Schmidt next year we could really see like Schmidt and Kyle Harrison, for example, just have impact seasons as a couple of young players. And it is time. It is what this team needs. They need to add some players in free agency. There's no doubt about it. Or trade, I suppose. But Correa, Judge, I could see both. Like how crazy as crazy as that might sound, it's not totally insane because the Giants have like no commitments after 2023. And they could pretty much start fresh, and that would be a pretty great duo to start fresh with. They do have plenty of players under club control, but they're not on guaranteed deals like Logan Webb, Thairo Estrada, etc. But anyway, they're going to need you can't always build through free agency like that. You need to have young players come in and make a difference. And that's been what's been lacking over the last many, many years for the Giants. On the pitching side, yes, Logan Webb, Camilo Doval, real success stories from the system coming up and making an impact, but they just have not had that on the position player side. David Villar has a shot. Joey Bart has been a disappointment thus far, to be frank. But, Schmidt is perhaps the most likely to make a significant impact from the system in 2023 on the position player side. Kyle Harrison, most likely on the starting pitching side, and he's fascinating as well and is arguably a better prospect. Not even arguably. He's considered by most to be a top pitching prospect in the game. But anyway, Patrick Bailey also takes home the award here at the catcher position. And for Bailey, he was their first round pick in 2020, and it's been overall a disappointment. He's stalled out. He's only played as high A Eugene. And this year, though, he wins the Gold Glove Award. I didn't see a lot of him playing at all. But overall, I mean, the average is 225, but the dude had a 342 on base percentage thanks to a 15% walk rate, only a 22% strikeout rate. So a catcher who's playing Gold Glove caliber defense, I don't know exactly what goes into how they choose these winners. I don't know how good he is as a framer and all that, which matters, although it might not matter so much if the automated zone comes into play. But a catcher with a 15% walk rate and a 195 isolated power and really good defense, that would play. And so I think we're kind of maybe too down on Patrick Bailey, and he still has a shot to develop into a quality player, perhaps. He's also a switch hitter, which is pretty unusual at the catcher position. So anyway, congratulations to those two, and that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen today. Now make your second listen the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. Helps me out a lot. So thanks in advance. And thank you to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Hopefully we have some juicy reports about this meeting with Aaron Judge and the Giants, and any other news and rumors that come up, we'll be there to cover it. So thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.